Hi, I'm Hyeyoung. I'm working with Jack Video as a research associate at Yale University. This work, the role of cultural value and of anti-immigrant attitude was done with Jack. The premise of this research is that prejudice, including anti-immigrant attitudes, is ubiquitous. However, attitudes and beliefs are influenced by cultural values, norms, and orientations through the socialization process. Thus, the degree and dynamics of prejudice can vary between society with different cultural background. My presentation is gonna talk about three different things. First, I'm gonna introduce cultural differences between those three different cultures. Actually, in previous speaker mentioned cross-cultural and then compare US and Australia, but actually in my study, US and Australia is in the same culture because they share. So I'm examining the culture more broadly. So I'm gonna examine the Northern European heritage culture because this culture has most major immigrant-receiving country has this background. The background their culture is Northern European heritage. They share similar cultural values. Also, East Asian culture. I'm going to examine East Asian culture because they are very distinctive from Northern European heritage, so they might show some different degree and dynamics in terms of prejudice and anti-immigrant attitudes, so which can suggest some other aspect of anti-immigrant attitudes. Also, East Asian can have been showing some greater prejudice in general in other studies, so they can be a kind of another suspect of actor of prejudice. Also, they can be a target, so I thought it can be a very interesting sample. I also included Latino culture because they are one of the major immigrant group, especially in the US. However, I'm still working on Latino culture, so in my this research also didn't suggest any specific variable, but I will still show how they are different. After I introduce basic cultural differences among those three cultures, I'm gonna show my previous findings and then present the current research. In summary, I reported only 2 studies, but we just found another big data set that has an immigrant-related variable, so we add another study as a study 1. They can explore general differences. They can show that there are the differences between the culture, but I'm still working on those study 1 data. It's a huge data set, and there are lots of things going on and very interesting, but I can just show you some very basic rough picture how they differ. So Northern European heritage culture can be characterized as individual-oriented and influenced by the Protestant ethics a lot and the meritocracy beliefs. You might be familiar with those all 3 because most of you are sharing this culture. You must hear or say at least one time in your life you are very special, very independent, and it's very important to achieve some things. So it can be like this, right? In East Asian culture, maybe I think almost only a few people seems like familiar with this East Asian culture. East Asian culture is known to be group-oriented. Here, in-group is is an important part of the self. In individual-oriented culture, group is also an important part of self. However, in-group and self are separated. And the in-group is important, but it's not really overlapped. But in group-oriented culture, the in-group is kind of part of myself. It's more overlapped. Also, they emphasize a lot about group function because because it's group-oriented, everything is basic unit of a society is group. So group function is very important. Consequently, roles and position within in-group is very important, more emphasized than in individual-oriented culture. Also, conformity with group norms is important and more perceived as more positive things. Here, conformity is more likely to be perceived as negative or a little bit not independent, so which is not good. However, in group-oriented culture, conformity is evaluated as positive values. Also, these group-oriented values is closely related to Confucianism, because Confucianism emphasized a lot about relations between people and in terms of hierarchy, and the priority is given to group over individuals. Another part of East Asian culture is there is some holistic circular world views. These are all kind of actually related. Everything is related. So group is relation within a relation among people within a group. And Confucianism also emphasizes a lot about relations. The holistic circular worldview also see the world and individual, everything is connected. Even the time, the before life, after life, and nature and human being, everything is related. Every event is related. So they share those kind of cultural value. These are the illustration about between the individual-oriented and group-oriented culture. The blue background is individual-oriented. It's not blue state, red state. It's individual-oriented and group-oriented. So you can see that those differences. And Latino cultures, so far I figured out they are more likely interpersonal than group. They both are collectivistic in the previous research. However, group-oriented culture, East Asian culture is more group-oriented. However, Latino culture is more interdependent, interpersonally oriented collectivism. And they emphasize a lot of traditional value, like family values and gender roles. And they also very religious in general. So like this. In previous research in prejudice, there are some cultural differences in prejudice. Social dominance orientation tended to be higher among Chinese than US college students. The reason I say tended to, because it's not the main research. I just got some data, kind of part of result. I just got the data that shows the differences. Also, social dimension orientation tended to be higher for both male and female college students in Taiwan than for the male and female college students in the US. And anti-black racism was greater among Japanese than the US. Also, various groups, like personality types, small groups, small work groups, national groups, were perceived as more entitative among Chinese than US college students. And perception of greater entitativity predict greater prejudice. So we can kind of imply, these results can imply consistently there are more prejudice in group-oriented cultures, East Asian cultures. In our previous research, we found prejudice toward non-normative groups, for example, different race or immigrants. Immigrants also can be perceived as non-normative group because they differ from majority. The non-normative groups, or the prejudice toward non-normative groups was greater in East Asian culture than Northern European heritage culture, partially because of values of individual uniqueness and behavioral conformity. We conducted analysis at the country level and the individual level both. So I make a simple diagram here, but those cultural differences reduced when we're controlling for those two variables. And our research, we found that the prejudice toward immigrants and foreign workers was higher in East Asian culture than Northern European culture. And economic competitiveness, a well-known predictor of anti-immigrant attitude, was higher in East Asian culture. However, economic competitiveness is more closely related to central value of Northern European heritage culture. Like here, we emphasize a lot about capitalistic and meritocratic achievement. So economic competitiveness can be more closely related to Northern European heritage culture rather than group-oriented cultures. And economic competitiveness also was associated with a lot of variables, the relevant variable in the US, in Northern European heritage culture than the East Asian cultures. And main finding was economic competitiveness was associated with prejudice toward immigrants and foreign workers more strongly and consistently in Northern European heritage culture than East Asian cultures. So, these results remain controlling for participants' social demographic backgrounds, ecological diversity of each country, the values of individual uniqueness and behavioral conformity, and diversity attitudes and racism. Here, the yellow part is showing that the significant association between economic competitiveness and prejudice. So first one show that without controlling for any variable. The second one is controlling for social demographic variable. Then we added one by one more and more. Northern European heritage culture, the association between the economic competitiveness and prejudice toward immigrants and foreign workers remain significantly. However, East Asian culture, that was attenuated to non-significance when we're controlling for individual uniqueness and behavioral conformity and all those psychological variables. So that means those variables may be more stronger predictor for anti-immigrant attitude in East Asian culture. However, in Northern European heritage culture, economic competitiveness is one of the major predictor, as we know. And those cultural differences in those associations was consistently significant across all those analyses. So in current research, again, I'm going to show overall cultural differences in some variables. And study two, we compared US and Germany and Australia, those kind of within culture variation. And for study three, that was the kind of main finding of this research. We compare US, US, Northern European heritage culture, Latino and East Asian culture. Study one, we analyzed International Social Survey Program data collected in 2013. We compare 8 Northern European heritage countries and 3 East Asian countries. We also consider those ecological diversity. For example, all those the low ecological diversity country means those language and the ethnic ethnic diversity and language diversity in terms of whether they high or low. So low means they are very homogeneous groups, and high means there are lots of variation going on, like a lot of ethnic groups living together. So overall, there are some survey questions asking about several different factors relating to immigrants. These are the actual questions, and we kind of combined together and then made 4 different aspect. First one is safety concerns, power status concern, and economic concern, and cultural concerns. Safety concern is actually in the mean level. There's the Northern European heritage culture show a little higher than East Asian culture. However, at the sum level, there is no differences. So which means they both care about safety concern in terms of immigration. And power and status concern was significantly higher in Northern European heritage culture. Do you remember here we emphasize a lot about achievement, so status and power is important. So they care about those like education opportunities or other rights within the country. Economic concern was higher in East Asian culture. I think that might be because of those actual economic situation. So in many East Asian culture, it's very high employment rates. It's very difficult to get a job in East Asian culture, so this is kind of very main important factor for living in East Asian culture. So I think that might be one of the reasons. So this is degree. So degree and dynamics has a different story. Then cultural concern is more about the symbolic threat. This one was higher in East Asian culture than Northern European heritage cultures. Also, the most variable measured in the survey here in Northern European heritage culture, less educated, living in a rural than urban area, or politically more conservative, or less support of diversity, more proud of one's country, more proud of being a citizen of the country. These tend to show greater negative attitude toward all those immigrant-related items. However, this association was much weaker in East Asian cultures. So we can see there's something different going on. We cannot just apply everything equally to different cultures. So study 2, we compare US, Germany, and Australia using World Value Survey. The anti-immigrant attitude was measured based on social distance, about neighboring question. Many people might be familiar with this. And economic competitiveness, same thing about the job opportunity. And the value of recognition achievement, this one is the item measured based on the value value survey, item scale. The thing is, this item, there's only one item, and they mention about recognition and achievement together. And recognition can be related to group-oriented culture because recognition means recognized by other people, something about the relation with other people, so it's kind of mixed up. However, they still emphasize about achievement, so we add this one. And there are also the preferred distance to differences. These are all something about differences. How much you don't want to have, maybe don't want to close to those differences, or you want to try to maybe approach those differences in terms of race, religions, and language. So in terms of degree, the Germany, in this data set, the Germany showed greater prejudice to immigrants and foreign workers than US. And the US is greater than Australia, and Germany greater than Australia. So basically Germany and US and Australia in that order, like this. The preferred, in terms of dynamics, the preferred distance to differences is commonly predicted anti-immigrant attitude all those three countries. Actually, those preferred distance to differences was come out as a universal predictor for across all cultures. And this preferred distance to differences was predicted anti-immigrant attitudes, particularly strongly in Germany. So, for example, US, there's a medium effect, and they emphasize more about language. In Germany, those race, religion, and language all equally, very strongly came out. And okay, Australia, there is a medium effect, and they emphasize more on the race. So study 2, they confirmed that the economic competitiveness commonly and similarly predict anti-immigrant attitude in all those in Northern European heritage countries. And the value of recognition achievement was also commonly predict anti-immigrant attitude. However, it's weaker, maybe because of the measure. In study 3, we compare those 3 different cultures, and also we have two countries for each culture, considering those ecological diversity. And prejudice was measured based on preferred social distance. And those measures are very similar to the study 2, but we add perceived controlling in life, considering as a predictor for East Asian cultures. Perceived controllability in life was measured based on this exact statement, whether how much you can have free choice or controllability over your life, things that happen in your life. So holistic circular worldview in East Asian culture, based on those worldview, the essentialism is kind of, in our pilot previous research, it's stronger in East Asian culture. And so that means essentialism and maybe it's not familiar with you, so you might not be, it might not be easy to make a connection how they are related to controllability, but everything is connected. So you were born because of something happened in your past life, something like that. And what's going to happen is something related, all those things happening around you. So there are lots of things, situational factors much stronger than my free will. So East Asian culture people, they tend to show more higher support about those beliefs. So also we examine the socio-demographic background and other control, the economic stability and safety, because these are not the cultural value, however, still very important and related to anti-immigrant attitude, so we controlling for those variables too. Overall, anti-immigrant attitude was stronger for East Asian than Northern European heritage and Latino. And the perceived distance to difference, race, religion, language was a common predictor. Except for the perceived distance to different religion was not significant in Northern European heritage culture. And those perceived distance to differences predicted anti-immigrant attitude more strongly in Latino and East Asian culture, probably because of the emphasis of conformity and essential qualities. Also, as we confirmed again, the economic competitiveness and the value of recognition and achievement was predicted anti-immigrant attitude in Northern European heritage culture, and perceived controllability in life predicted East Asian culture. And we in this study, we didn't find any specific factor that specifically predict anti-immigrant attitude only in the Latino cultures. So here you go. It looks complicated. Actually, Jack asked me to make a separate diagram for this one, but I didn't have a chance. But I make a different color. For here on the right side and the top, that's a degree, the basic, without controlling for anything. So this is negative proportion proportion of negative responses about this group, immigrant and foreign workers. So East Asian culture is higher, and actually Northern European and Latino culture show similar in terms of degree. In terms of dynamics, all those first group, no color, I mean the light color, that's the social demographic background, gender, age, income, ecological diversity, economic stability, and safety from crime. There are some things going on, but I didn't highlight because it's not about culture, but you can look at it if you're interested in. I think those findings are very consistent with the other findings, your research I heard in several people. So when we're controlling for those basic social demographic controls and economic competitiveness and recognition achievement, value of those achievement stuff, that predict anti-immigrant attitudes strongly, significantly in Northern European heritage culture, but not in Latino. And there is one, the small but still significant East Asian culture, but it was attenuated to non-significant when we controlling for everything together, including the preferred distance to, what was that, the differences. Those different race, different religion, different language, all significant across the culture is a common predictor. However, the religion was not significant. And when we put all together in each culture, those economic competitiveness and recognition achievement is still significant, but all, the other factor was disappeared, which means that the differences, the perceived distance to difference is very stronger predictor in East Asian and Latino cultures. And here, this is summary of the cultural differences between in these dynamics. Maybe, okay. Northern European heritage culture, Latino, they seem similar in terms of degree without controlling for any variable. However, those in terms of dynamics, there were differences, as you saw in the previous slide. Only the perceived distance to differences was a stronger predictor in Latino culture, and Northern European heritage culture, their economic competitiveness and achievement was stronger, a significant predictor. And Northern European heritage and East Asian culture, yeah, last. Okay, I can show that this might be easier. So in the top, all those kind of pink reddish, stronger reddish color is show the significant. So these are all significant. However, in terms of degree, Northern European heritage culture and Latino culture, there is the degree is not significant. And also, the difference between Northern European heritage culture and East Asian culture in the bottom, the violet, purple color, that was not significant, which means those cultural differences explained almost fully based on those differences. However, other Northern European heritage and Latino and Northern East Asian and Latino, it's still, the cultural difference is still significant, even though it's reduced, which means there are some other factors involved we didn't examine. So maybe that might be related more with Latino culture or something with other value we don't know yet. So summary is that there's a common predictor, and there's some culture-specific predictor. And implication of this study is that in Northern European heritage culture, the immigrants can be, the region of the prejudice to immigrants can be based on the employment opportunities or other resources that can help achieve the status. Also, those perceived differences like foreign or terms of language, especially. In East Asian culture, those, the the prejudice toward anti-immigrants can be based on the conformity or those other predetermined qualities and the differences. And Latino culture is differences. However, there might be something more we didn't examine. So conclusion, the core cultural value of a society can shape the attitude, including the anti-immigrant attitude. So in order to explain anti-immigrant attitude of individual with different cultural background, especially those major immigrant-receiving countries, there are not only the host group, but there are a lot of immigrant groups live together. There are, even though East Asian group is not a host group, but they can express the anti-immigrant attitude to other immigrants groups, and also considering those core cultural value can predict the response and can suggest some culture-specific interventions. So future research, we can go some other factors and also intersectionality of anti-immigrant attitude, because, for example, in Northern European heritage culture, immigrants can be perceived not only as a competitor for job, but also different people with a different language and also non-normative and low status. And individuals within East Asian culture tend to show greater anti-immigrant attitude, so it's maybe we need to study more about it to figure out what's really going on. Yeah, here is my collaborator. Thank you.